or people that commit crimes because they want to study them. And I put a quotation marks because it is true. With the simple fact that just accepting the fact that there's going to be bad people, we need to lock them up and throw the key. We don't want to do that. And this is where all is going to one place, and it's very uncomfortable. Alright, guys, so today we're going to be reacting to the stupidity of apologizing for slavery. Um, this is, of course, Thomas Sowell, and he has done a great job regarding these uncomfortable topics. Somehow has managed to, how can I say this, simplify it in a way I can no, understand it, of course, but help me go through the complexity itself because a lot of these topics are very complex. Thomas Sowell, The Stupidity of Apologizing for Slavery. Here we go.
Tiger Woods doesn't owe me an apology. Nothing that he has ever done has cost me a dime nor an hour of sleep. This is not a plea to be non-judgmental. I am very judgmental about all sorts of things, including Tiger Woods' bad behavior. But that is very different from saying that he somehow owes me an apology. For all I know, my neighbors may be judgmental when I drive out of my driveway in a 15-year-old car. But they have never said anything to me about it, and I have never offered them an apology. This is not equating driving a 15-year-old car with what Tiger Woods did. But the point is that any apology he might make should be made to his family, who were hurt, not to the public, who might be disappointed in him, but not
Okay, I
really
see where he's
hurt.
going with this.
Public apologies to people who are not owed any apology have become one of the many signs of the mushy thinking of our times. So are apologies for things that somebody else did. Among the most absurd apologies have been apologies for slavery by politicians.
Congress must officially apologize for slavery before America can think about reparation. Okay, I see where this thing going.
For one thing, slavery is not something you can apologize for, any more than you can apologize for murder. If someone says to you that he murdered someone near and dear to you, what are you supposed to say? No problem, we all make mistakes? Not bloody likely. Slavery is too serious for an apology, and somebody else being a slave owner is not something for you to apologize for. When somebody who has never owned a slave apologizes for slavery to somebody who has never been a slave, then what began as mushy thinking has degenerated into
Mushy
theatrical
thinking.
absurdity, or, worse yet, politics. Slavery has existed all over the planet for thousands of years, with black, white, yellow, and other races being both slaves and enslavers. Does that mean that everybody ought to apologize to everybody else for what their ancestors did? Or are the only people who are supposed to feel guilty the ones who have money that others want to talk them out of?
Good point. Okay, but okay, let me put it this way. We all agree slavery was a bad thing. What's the reason people want that apology? That's what I want to get to. Why apologizing is so important. There has to be a reason why they're pushing this narrative for people to apologize. People that never had slaves or were not even descendants of slaves. Why? That's what I want to know. What's the reason behind it?
This craze for aimless apologies is part of a general loss of a
Britain
sense of
should
personal
apologize and pay
responsibility in
reparation
our
for
time.
past slavery. You see, there's an agenda here because United States, Britain, who's gonna be next? The German, the Dutch, Italian, Portuguese, Spaniards. See, this
We are
doesn't end.
supposed to feel guilty for what other people did, but there are 1,000 cop-outs for what we ourselves did to those we did it to.
Hmm.
Back in the 1960s, when so many foolish ideas flourished simply because they were new, a New York Times columnist tried to make the case that we were all somehow responsible for the assassination of President Kennedy.
What?
That was considered to be deep stuff. It made you one of the special folks when you believed that, instead of one of the rest of us poor dumb slobs who believed that the man who shot him was responsible. For more than a century, the intelligentsia have been trying to get us to focus on the root causes of crime, supposedly created by society, instead of locking up thieves or executing murderers. If some people
Oh.
don't have the money or the achievements of others, that too is society's fault, in the eyes of those for whom personal responsibility is an outmoded idea. Personal responsibility is a real
Huh.
problem for those who want to collectivize society and take away our power to make our own decisions, transferring that power to third parties like themselves, who
Mm.
imagine themselves so much wiser and nobler than the rest of us. Aimless
Interesting point. Interesting point. You have societies where they don't want to incarcerate murderers, or people that commit crimes because they want to study them. And I put a quotation marks because it is true. With the simple fact that just accepting the fact that there's going to be bad people, we need to lock them up and throw the key. We don't want to do that. And this is where all is going to one place, and it's very uncomfortable.
apologies are just one of the incidental
The trouble with
symptoms of an
apologizing for
increasing loss
slavery.
of a sense of personal responsibility, without which a whole society is in jeopardy. The police cannot possibly maintain law and order by themselves. Millions of people can monitor their own behavior better than any third parties can. Cops can cope with that segment of society who have no sense of personal responsibility, but not if that segment becomes a large part of the whole population.
Mm.
Yet increasing numbers of educators and the intelligentsia seem to
All
have
in
devoted
shotgun.
themselves to undermining or destroying a sense of personal responsibility and making society
Mm.
responsible instead. Aimless apologies are just one small symptom of this larger and more dangerous attitude.
Isn't it Jordan Peterson said that you should never apologize if you didn't do anything wrong? And the reason is because it does develop a very weak spiritual side. You become weak as a person. You don't have integrity because you feel sorry for yourself, right? And I'm not apologizing for United States history. We have a black history, yeah, for sure. Like all the nations, they have a bad history. It's just part of the human nature. I don't like it. I think it's just horrendous, but it is what it is. There's nothing else we can do. If you're liberated by sin, you throw your first rock. If you're that person, you are the first human being that ever has crossed this life with no sins in your back. I don't like where a lot of these ideas are heading the nation towards. It's very concerning. At the same time, I know there's some groups that are fighting very hard to make sure these ideas don't flourish too much, because we right now in a weird place where it's like a twilight zone. I don't know. The stupidity of apologizing for slavery. It is stupidity. It could be a little bit too much, but I would say just accept it. You don't have to apologize. Just accept that there was a dark past from our history. That's it. And just let it go. Just let's move forward. Clearly, we don't have slaves around here. Well, if you, in some state, if you're arrested, of course, you become a slave for the state. But you violated the law, so you lose your rights. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'm gonna really appreciate it. And make sure you like and subscribe. That's very important as well.